You'll see the roofs of the little towns and the hillsides yellow with wild oak.
You know what I was fortunate to experience as a kid, which is forever gonna be like ingrained in me. Um, if you don't know, I'm Puerto Rican. So in Puerto Rico, there's a place called El Yunque, which means the jungle, and you could hike up the the jungle, and you reach about 10,000 feet. You could go above the clouds or whatever, and it's a humbling moment. I used to do that with my grandfather every single time I visited him. Like me and him would plan a trip because it would be like a 3 hour hike up, maybe more. Yeah, probably more. But it was definitely a you would take the day going up there, and finally when you would reach up there and you just chill, we have some sandwiches, drink, and just view the whole island. It's a it's a crazy experience. Between that and in the part of the island, because we used to get blackouts out there, and the one thing that I liked, we were kind of in like the where we lived at. It was more like the farm. It was like in the mountainous areas. There wasn't a lot of street lights, but the one thing that was good about it not having a lot of street lights, you could see the Milky Way if you looked up. And he used to have a telescope, and I would just look up at the stars. I think I saw Jupiter one time. No, not Jupiter, Saturn. I saw Saturn one time. Um, it's a it was a real humbling moment. Going back at that, I do miss that. Let me see if they have something here. There's got to be people that. This is an 8-minute video. Let me
I'm
see.
Kevin across America in Puerto Rico's El Yunque National Rainforest. After spending 5 days in San Juan, it was time to see what else Puerto Rico had to offer. So if you think of like an iconic American national park, Yellowstone comes to mind. Here in Puerto Rico, it's El Yunque National Forest. About 45-minute car ride from San Juan, and that's where I'm headed right now. El Yunque is a tropical forest in northeastern Puerto Rico. It receives more than 200 inches of rain each year on average.
That's exactly where I was at.
That rain feeds lots of waterfalls in the park and hydrates more than 1,000.
It's crazy because if you go up, you'll see like waterfalls and rivers and all that. And if you look down at the sand, there's little shimmers of gold. You can't get it because they're so fine, but you see it through the water, and it's just gold, little flakes of gold laying around.
1,000 types of plant species.
It really is, man.
Orchids and ferns. El Yunque is also home to more than 50 types of birds, plus reptiles, bats,
that's the
and
trail,
a special type of frog. Puerto Ricans have a deep love for the coqui frog.
Oh my
it's
God,
super tiny, so you're likely not to see it during a visit here, but its sound can be heard all across the island. Just listen. Coqui, coqui. That's the sound it makes, hence its name.
Yeah, there's a story behind the coqui, urban myth. It was that a warrior fell in love with a goddess. And they were they were in love. I heard this years ago, so if if I say it, I might have some information wrong, but I'm pretty sure like I'll get the gist of it right. But it was a warrior and a goddess that they fell in love, and I believe the warrior was I forgot his name, but the goddess was Coqui or whatever. Something along that lines, like with that sound. There was another god, like a demon god, that tricked the goddess into going away, and basically, long story short, he turned that warrior into a frog, and now that frog sits around calling out to the goddess that he fell in love with, which was Coqui, and that's why you hear the sound Coqui. That's part of the, the mythology behind the animal. Obviously, it's just a frog that says Coqui, but there is a story. I know, right?
2023, El Yunque was limiting access to
300
vehicles
it was a sad
to
story
prevent overcrowding. And so you had to make a reservation in advance.
Yeah. I the last time I went to Puerto Rico, I was so upset because usually I was able to go up there. Like you could just drive up, park where you want to park at, and just walk the mountain. You feel me? Now they got roadblocks and shit saying no, you got to get an app, you got to reserve a thing, and they only allow like 200 people a day now. And I'm like, it happened after Maria. That they started doing this, and like I was so upset because the year that my grandfather died and I went to the funeral, I wanted to go, up there one last time, in sort of like a, for his memory, and that's when I got hit with this bullshit.
Advance on recreation.gov.
Not that it should come as a surprise, but the hike to the top of El Yunque is pretty steep.
Yeah,
I passed multiple communication towers and abandoned buildings.
This looks like something straight out of Jurassic Park.
On my way to the park summit, elevation 3,500 feet.
This is the peak of El Yunque. You can actually see San Juan in the distance over there. This is the whole northern coast of Puerto Rico, which borders the Atlantic Ocean. Then you can see where it turns past the town of Fajardo to the east.
That's where I'm from, Fajardo. So yeah, I was able to see my whole town.
Coast. It's absolutely spectacular view up here.
A short while later,
you can sit here and be here all day looking around.
I met Manuel Velez.
I'm a ham radio operator.
Who picked this rocky remote perch to communicate with the world beyond, a hobby he enjoys in his spare time.
I've talked to Russia, Spain, France, South America, Brazil, like pretty much across all the continents.
In the middle of our interview, Manuel and I found ourselves chatting in the clouds.
Well, look at this. I mean, the clouds are coming.
Yeah, you actually enter the clouds, bro.
We are basically inside the clouds right now.
Pretty darn cool.
And it's sunny there, and it's like this here. But you'll see it keeps going, and then it gets sunny again.
In 2017, Hurricanes Irma and Maria wreaked havoc on El Yunque.
Yeah.
The park shut down for around 18 months.
Yeah.
When I visited, nearly 6 years after Maria, certain paths remained closed.
Yeah, still
and
places were
construction
closed.
Work was still visible.
I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but because the radio towers are on top of some of the mountains here in El Yunque, you get really good cell phone and data signal throughout the park.
And the crazy thing is, my grandfather worked for the rainforest, like the government or whatever. So before, like, you saw how he was up on the top. Before, nobody was allowed to be up there because the trails weren't that. Say, like, you had to be with somebody that knew the trail, and since my grandfather worked for them, he kind of was able to bypass all that. So like, it was just me and him. Like, there was always like a certain stop where the tourists had to go, and then like me and my family would go past that and go all the way to the top, which like was another reason why it was like kind of a special
Puerto Ricans
a special moment
during
for
the
me.
Great Depression era. The CCC's work in El Yunque includes Baño de Oro, which was a popular swimming hole for more than 30 years. Landslides and sediment buildup forced its closure in the late 1960s, but you can still walk around it.
Hola.
If you aren't able to snag a reservation for El Yunque, but still want to say you actually stepped foot on park grounds, type Angelito Trail into your smartphone. The half-mile hike takes you to a natural pool in the middle of a river.
That's a short trail. I've been to that
even a rope swing.
Yeah.
Because the trail is located outside of El Yunque's main gate, you can access it without a reservation. So this water actually feels really warm, especially considering that it comes from the mountains, way better than places like Colorado and Montana. I found 3 really good restaurants within a 30-minute drive of El Yunque. The first, Lolita's Mexican in Luquillo, where I ordered the fish ceviche. Number 2, the Bungaloo restaurant and bar in Palmer, where I ate a chicken stuffed taco. It was delicious. And number 3, La Estacion in Fajardo. It's located in an old gas station, hence the name. I settled on the award-winning brisket with Caribbean coleslaw, an arepa, and cilantro chimichurri. I also ordered
Oh my God, I'm sorry. His pronunciations of these words is just driving a knife through my ear.
Made with fresh squeezed fruit juice. In 2000, Brooklyn native Kevin Roth was the chef at a Manhattan restaurant. That's when he met his now wife, Adalia, who's Puerto Rican. During a vacation to the island in 2006, the couple stumbled upon the rickety service station and took a big leap of faith, buying the property, uprooting their lives, and opening what they call a Nuyorican barbecue joint, using traditional U.S. techniques with Caribbean flavors.
All right, so this is the Airbnb I booked in the mountain.
Yeah, the thing about Puerto Rico now, ever since Maria hit, a lot of people from the U.S. Went. Same thing that happened with St. Louis, or I'm sorry, it's not St. Well, New Orleans after Katrina hit. That all of a sudden these real estate people started buying up land. Same thing with Maria. A whole bunch of people came in, started buying land. There's a lot of white people out in Puerto Rico now. I went to Home Depot one time out there, and I saw I thought he was just a regular tourist, and he was like, "Nah, I've been here since Maria. You know what I mean? The real estate is cheap. You know, I love it out here. This, and that. Like, it's crazy now that certain people take advantage out of like a tragedy, but it is what it is, man. Traditional U.S. techniques. That means they put no seasoning.
Mountains overlooking the town of Luquillo.
Oh, and one last thing. My Airbnb near El Yunque might have looked basic from the outside, but it felt like a tropical mountain cottage within.
Yeah. I'm all for inclusivity. Like, I'm not saying that people from the U.S. or white people, whatever, should go or can't go to Puerto Rico, but don't water down the culture. You get me? Like, this is why, like, I saw a news article where a lot of people were talking about that whole term Latinx that they keep on shoving down our throat, and it's like, no, like, I'm never gonna consider myself Latinx, like, because you can't even use that in a sentence. Like, you can't take that English term and use it in a Spanish sentence. You get me? It just doesn't sound right. We have our own, language for Latins. It's either Latino or Latina. You get me? Not no Latinx. Like, I never understood that. Like, you said you're from Thailand, right? Like, imagine America says, like, oh yeah, instead of saying that you're, Chinese or Canadian, if you want to go that route, that you're Canadian, Canada X or nah, man, like, you don't want to hear that shit. That was cool, man. I just didn't like the way he butchered those words. All right, let's see this.
All right, guys. It's time we talked about this. So if you've been on social media recently, you've probably seen a lot of talk about AI generated art. In order to understand the severity of the issue surrounding AI art, we have to understand how AI works. When an AI creates a piece of art, it doesn't...
My wife uses AI a lot in her TikTok apps or whatever. Like, it shows her as like a goddess or I've seen the ones where have you seen the ones where like they take each country and they turn into like a superhero or a bad guy or a super villain? Like it's bugged, it's bugged out. Like
generate that
and the problem is they come out with such great pieces visually that no matter how much you complain about it, people are that's gonna be a demand, and it's gonna overcome
content.
I had one AI app where I had put I just mashed things together, and it would come out with some crazy art pieces, man.
Out of thin air. Instead, there needs to be an input in order for there to be an output. In the big,
you know what I use AI for? I use AI for more like inspiration. If I wanted a certain scenery with a certain type of mood or whatever, I'll type whatever in, and I'll see it, and I'll be like, oh, okay, and then I'll create my own thing, based off that. I've done that before.
Picture, machine learning companies such as Stability AI generate profits from high quality media. And the creation of this media depends entirely on training their AI on a specific dataset. These images are made by assembling visual data that have statistical correlations to each other to produce a final result that looks acceptable. That's a very simplified explanation, but that's the gist of how AI systems work. All you gotta know is in order for that image to be generated, there has to be a dataset, and that is where the problem comes in. In these datasets, there exists billions of copyrighted images, of artworks, of photographs, of people, all of which was collected from the internet without the consent of the intellectual property owner. My personal artwork that I share on my Instagram page has been used to train AI models. And chances are, if you've shared your work online or even images of yourself, your house, your environment, you might have been included in these datasets. And if you guys want a really great in-depth book on this topic, I recommend Steven Zapata's video, which I'm going to link in the description below. The problem here is your artwork and my artwork, the moment we share them online, they are opted in to the system. If your work so much as exists online, it will be found and it will be used in a piece of AI art. And we as artists are not being protected. This is genuinely an industrial scale violation of each and every one of our rights. Stability AI has claimed, quote, because diffusion models are prone to memorization and overfitting, releasing a model trained on copyrighted data could potentially result in legal issues. Basically admitting to the fact that their models directly use copyrighted content. And many of these generated images tend to look identical to their original copyrighted counterparts. Images and text descriptions are taken from the internet through a practice called data mining, which allows these companies to accumulate an incomprehensible amount of data. And these corporations have intentionally targeted legal loopholes to allow them to do this. Stability AI itself funded the creation of the largest dataset being used, which is called Lion 5B. This dataset contains 5.8 billion points of image and text data, including copyrighted data and private data. This non-consensual practice of using copyrighted data in commercial products is illegal. But here is where it gets really, really messy. Now, this database Lion 5B, which is most widely used for AI generation, was created with the pretext of research. But the corporations behind the funding of this research quickly turned it into a commercialized product, which now include Dream Studio and Stable Diffusion, both owned by Stability AI. And now the app Lensa AI has been charging money for specific avatar packs. And as a result of which, these companies are now making massive amounts of profit. This loophole allows these companies to weave their way through legal regulations which are put in place to protect the copyrighted work of artists and creatives. And this process has been fittingly described as data laundering. And a lot of users even go as far as to use directly the names of certain artists to create their generated content. For example, concept artist Greg Rutkowski, you've probably heard of him. He has had his name used 250,000 times between Stability AI and Midjourney's AI platforms. Wow. Not only is the collection of copyrighted content of legal concern, but so is this. When AI generations are made to look like an artist's work, this has the potential for reputation damage, for forgery, for fraud, for identity theft. And what's most concerning is that when these models are trained on images of your artwork, they are unable to forget. So almost all of these models are now working with tainted data. Their generations now all involve copyrighted content which has been gathered without the knowledge or permission of the copyright owner. It is directly hurting artists who have put their passion and their soul into everything that they create, only for their work to be scraped from the internet without their permission and used in training AI models. To the large corporations and businesses behind AI, the perfect world would mean one where there doesn't need to be a middleman. There doesn't need to be an artist. It'll be a world where these large businesses can capitalize and monopolize an entire industry. The worst part of it all is you and I, we don't have the option to opt out, and the AI does not have the option to forget. Now, even with all this being said, a lot of people who are in support of AI will still try to dismiss this point. But if you're on the fence about this, all I ask is that you take a look at the music industry. There have been AI models made to create audio content. But when it comes to audio content and the data that's being used for that, these companies go out of their way to mention that everything being used is copyright free and that every aspect of that creation process is based on a fair and ethical system that doesn't infringe on the rights of music artists. So please tell me now, why is there such a double standard when it comes to visual artists? Visual art, just like music, has been around since the beginning of humanity. It's been such an integral part of our culture, from being found on ancient artifacts, on carvings, on stone. Art is one of the backbones of our humanity. And I absolutely love that music artists have their rights protected. But if that's the case, why should visual artists be literally trampled on an industry-wide basis? This is simply not artists crying and whining over something that's unreasonable. This is our creation that we hold so near and dear to our hearts. In some cases, it might be our livelihoods. It might be the way we put food on the table for our families. But in every single case, this is our passion. This is what makes us who we are. And all of us, me and you, and even if you're not an artist and you're watching this video, we have a right to feel angry, to feel the way that we do right now about this unethical system. Every single time an artist speaks out about this issue, I see the same tired, overused counterpoints to try to quiet that artist down. And I am just so tired of it. People saying things such as, you put your work online, it's on the internet, it's free for us to use. That's simply a misunderstanding of the law.
That is not true. People put music out there and it's not for everybody to use. Like, come on, man.
Something is online doesn't mean you can use it for whatever you want, especially not for commercial purposes. I've also heard people say that AI takes inspiration from references just like artists do. When someone says this, chances are, number one, they don't understand the artistic creative process, or number two, they don't understand how AI works. AI takes data directly from that data set and it's able to create a perfect replica. Humans simply cannot. And if you point to the examples of forgery in the art world, that practice is not something that we condone. That practice is highly frowned upon. A human has to literally look at the inspiration, process it in their minds, combine it with their life experiences, with the way they feel, with how they approach every single brushstroke. I've seen thousands of studies of my work that people post online and tag me in, and in every single one of those pieces, even if it's a complete one-to-one study, I can see the unique human touch that made that piece their own. So no, an artist taking inspiration from someone else's work and studying a reference is not the same as AI image generation. There is also that really weak argument that this technology is here to stay, it's inevitable, so why don't you just accept it and stop fighting? And that just seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding of why artists are upset and what we're fighting for. I myself, and
I know it's a, you know, it's not the reason why you guys are fighting, but it's still a fact of the matter. You get me? Like, I'm upset at this too, but realistically, like, what can you do about this? You could say like, oh, don't support it, don't do this. Like, there's so many people that aren't artistically talented, you know, so they have to, you know, like I said before, my wife uses that all the time.
I know a lot of artists are not here to erase AI technology completely. We don't want to do that, and we know we can't do that. The thing is, AI is here to stay. I accept that and I welcome that. But the way these systems are organized and structured to take advantage of millions of artists is something that we are not okay with. It's not about pushing back against AI.
I was always under the impression, or it was just probably me being ignorant, that when they explained AI to me as far as the art generations, all they did was I didn't know that it actually memorized people's, you know, art and kept it like stored. I thought it was just like how we put, like, let's say, you know, whatever, like a phoenix or whatever. it would just take a collection of different images of that thing that you're searching for and create its own thing. I didn't realize that it actually like took the technique of a like specific artist.
AI technology itself.
That's
it's
crazy.
about pushing back against these unethical practices of using our work, commercializing it, all of which without our consent. Artists such as myself are not given the option to opt out, not given any compensation, and not asked for consent or permission before our images are used. I don't even want an opt-out system. This system should be opt-in in the first place. Why should my work that I've put tens of thousands of hours into be scraped and taken without my permission and opted into the system automatically? This system exploits artists, it's unethical, and I don't want to be a part of it. And just to summarize how bad it's all gotten, I'm going to give you guys some personal anecdotes and some experiences that I've had with the AI community.
Hold on. Honestly, I say the company is stealing images of people and their art. If you want to make your own AI art generator, use your own art, No, I get it. I definitely get it.
A few weeks back, it was brought to my attention that somebody on Reddit had created a model based on 300 images of my work, all of which taken without my knowledge, without my consent, and it was shared on a Reddit post in the community of Stable Diffusion. Not only were these generations watermarked, but the poster also said that there was no need to ask for permission from the artist in order to make these models public, which, as I've mentioned before, in the words of Stability AI, could get you into legal issues. So naturally, I called it out. I put it on my story, I showed people what's going on, I voiced my discontent with the situation. But the fact that I called this out caused a lot of anger on both sides. Some people on Reddit decided that it's a good idea to take more of my work, more of the pieces that I put tens of thousands of hours into and just poured my heart and soul into, and generate even more AI models based on that. And a lot of people have been releasing it to the public in that subreddit. I've gotten a lot of comments from people saying, how dare you react the way you did? How dare you call this out in your story? You caused all of this drama, so now this is all going to come back to you. And part of me is angry about the situation, but I think I'm more sad about it than anything else. It just seems there's no empathy, there's no understanding, there's not even an attempt to try to understand why an artist could be so upset about something like this happening to them. And some people have gone as far as to directly email my business email about their competition.
Then you know what gotta be done? Before putting whatever pieces of art that you have online, you gotta put a watermark at least in front of it. It's gonna suck, but it's, it's something that you're gonna have to do.
Competition that they ran to try to make a model that looks most like my work in a way that's very passive aggressive,
which honestly I think I'm gonna start doing that, bro.
Very backhanded and borderline harassment. And I can tell you right now, I'm not the only one who has experienced toxicity like this. Greg Rutkowski, who I've mentioned before, have received comments and messages about how he shouldn't feel the way he does, how he's overreacting. Just attempts to invalidate artists, calling us whiny, calling us complainers. But with this video, I'm hoping to reach people, to educate people, to let people know about how big of an issue this really is. And honestly, if you're an artist, or even if you're not an artist and you just care about the rights of artists, I wholeheartedly stand with you. I stand beside you. Educate people on this. Post it on your story. Let your voice be heard. Even if people in the AI industry do try to silence you, just know that there are millions of artists who stand with me and with you, who stand behind you to make the changes that we need. It's going to take all of us knowing about this issue, talking about this issue, and educating people who don't know just how messy the situation is. And I don't want this video to make you feel like there's just no hope in the future, because there absolutely is. If you don't know, DeviantArt recently tried to opt every single art piece ever posted onto their website into their AI system. But guess what? Artists on that platform pushed back against that. They made their voices heard, and that decision was reversed by DeviantArt. So there is a way to make a difference. Even if AI is here to stay, your voice and my voice will make sure that the future that we live in is an ethical and fair one to artists. And to all the artists out there who have a following, who have not spoken up on this topic yet, I understand it's hard. You want to avoid drama. You don't want to be pulled into something that you're not ready for. But this affects all of us. Doesn't matter how safe you feel, how much you feel like your work is not going to be affected. Oh, AI is here, but I'm still going to be drawing in 10 years, so I'll be fine. Your job is secure, and that's great. I'm happy for you, but think about the young people right now. I get so many comments and messages from people telling me how they feel hopeless. There are literally kids out there art babies who are in art schools going through a 4-year program to hopefully work in the industry, and they feel like there's no hope for them. If you're an artist with a voice, with a platform, you don't have to do it for yourself. Do it for the younger generation. There are so many people, young people, who are counting on you.
But you know what's going to happen now? I feel like it's going to be a reverse effect. Or I'm hoping that it's a reverse effect. That people will revert back from digital art and they'll start doing what me and some of my friends are doing. Like my dude is that I know that I grew up with. He's doing, canvas painting. I do digital art here and there, but I'm really interested in, the plaster art and that type of aspect, because that's really where you're gonna have to. But the problem is, everything is gonna be so digital that, what's the market on like canvas paintings at this point? You get me? Unless you you make a painting and you're able to photograph it to make prints and do it that way, that could negate this little movement. But I honestly didn't realize to what extent this AI thing was. I was completely ignorant to this fact. I was more focused on like AI in music. I wasn't really focused like in the AI in the art field. But yeah, if it's doing stuff like that, it's definitely infringing on people's rights and people's content, man. They shouldn't do that. I got a feeling if enough people speak out though, they will put some sort of legislation in that'll kind of regulate that, hopefully, man.
I don't know about you guys, but I want a future where there's an option to pursue the passion of art as a career. I want a future where the kids want to draw, want to create, want to make things that mean something to them. And whether we like it or not, we're at a very pivotal time in history right now, and there are big changes coming, and it starts right now with me and you. So if you've made it to the end of this video, I want to thank you for being here, for listening, and for trying to understand the situation. I do want AI to be part of our future, but just not this current version of it. Feel free to share this video with people who might not know as much as you do about this current situation. And please look up some information on this topic, talk to people about it, educate yourself, and educate other people as well. And with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next video.
This crazy.
You're called to create.
That's insane to me. I mean, you know what? I can't say it's insane to me. If there's a profit for it, they're gonna do it, But yeah, I definitely gotta re-strategize what I do as far as my whatever art piece that I end up working on.